It showed up on a Monday between room 108 and room 110, where there had always been a blank wall. A door now stood. It wasn't marked. No label, no room number, not even the worn residue of an old sign. Just a solid metal door with a simple black knob. Students passed it all morning without comment. Then Mark Venton noticed. He sat in room 108 near the window and had been using that hallway all semester. He knew the wall between 108 and 110 had always been uninterrupted. A flat, slightly dirty expanse of beige paint and 2 screws where a fire extinguisher had once been mounted. Now there was a door. He mentioned it to his friend Jada at lunch. She thought he was messing with her, but when they checked after 5th period, it was still there, locked. They asked Mr. Lee, who taught history in 110, what it was. He frowned like they were joking. "There's no door there," he said, without even glancing. "Yes, there is," Jada replied. He blinked, furrowed his brow like trying to recall something, then simply said, "Probably maintenance," and walked away. But it wasn't on the maintenance map either. Mark looked it up in the digital campus directory during 6th period. Room numbers, electrical panels, plumbing routes. Nothing listed between 108 and 110. Not even a storage alcove. Just concrete. By the end of the day, 5 students had confirmed it. The door had not been there Friday, and now it was. That night, Mark dreamed of standing in the hallway. The door was open. Darkness spilled out like a shadow in reverse. He stood at the edge, listening. Behind him, the school was silent, frozen in a moment between bells. From inside the doorway came the sound of paper being turned. Not fast, not slow, just steady. He woke up sweating. The next morning, the door was still there, unlocked. They didn't plan to go in. Not at first, but curiosity in high school is more contagious than fear. By lunch, Mark, Jada, and a 3rd student, Chiron, had decided they would open it after a final bell. No teachers lingered in that hallway. Cameras weren't installed until the senior wing, and besides, it was just a door. What harm could it do? The 3 met after dismissal when the hall had emptied. It was quieter than usual. The 3 met after dismissal when the hall had emptied. It was quieter than usual. The lights overhead flickered slightly, as if reluctant to stay lit. Jada turned the knob. The door opened inward. Behind it was a narrow corridor, far too long for what should have been a shallow closet. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting uneven shadows on the tiled floor. The walls were lined with lockers, none labeled, all slightly dented. "Is this a hallway?" Chiron asked. "It can't fit between the rooms," Mark said. "There's not enough space." They stepped inside. The door, didn't close behind them. It didn't need to. As they walked, the hallway grew colder. Not frigid, just off, like stepping into a basement where the air hadn't moved in years. Not frigid, just off, like stepping into a basement where the air hadn't moved in years. At the far end, another door, also unlabeled. They opened it. Inside was what looked like a classroom, but not one they recognized. The chairs were older, wooden, with metal legs and carved initials. The blackboard was cracked in the center. Dust floated in the beams of weak sunlight coming from a window that shouldn't exist, facing a brick wall only 2 feet away. But what struck them most was the smell. Books, paper, something sharp and sour, like vinegar and rust. Jada walked to the teacher's desk. A class roster sat open. She scanned the names, one by one. She stopped. "Mark," she said, her voice dry. "Come here." He did. The list had 3 names: Mark, Vinton, Kyron, Ree. Below each was a date. Today's date. Next to each, absent. Behind them, the door closed. They ran back to it. It was gone. The wall was seamless. No frame, no knob, just painted brick. No cracks, no handle. The wall was seamless. No frame, no knob, just painted brick. No cracks, no handle. The window now showed something else. Not the brick wall, but a hallway lined with desks facing outward, all empty. Chiron tried his phone, but no signal. The lights dimmed. Then the intercom came on, a sharp buzz. Then a soft male voice. Attendance complete. Begin evaluation. Footsteps echoed outside the classroom door. None of them moved. They stood frozen as the footsteps passed, slow, deliberate, heavy. Then silence. For hours, they stayed huddled in the corner, whispering, trying to understand what they'd done, where they had gone. Time didn't pass normally. Mark's watch ticked backward. Chiron claimed he saw his own handwriting on the wall, words he hadn't written yet. Jada found a notebook inside the teacher's drawer. It contained journal entries, all signed with her name. The entries described the day in perfect detail, up until the moment the door closed. The final line read, "If you're reading this, don't forget who you are." She dropped the book. They tried shouting. No one heard. Eventually, the room changed. The desks began to move, slowly, subtly, rearranging. The walls grew narrower. The floor shifted beneath their feet like breathing. Mark passed out first. When he woke up, the room was empty. Jada was gone. Chiron was gone. Only the class roster remained. Their names had been replaced. New names. Names he didn't recognize. He opened the door again. This time, it was a janitor's closet. Mops, buckets, a flickering light, a flickering light. The school bell rang. It was morning, Tuesday. Mark stumbled into the hallway. Students passed him. No one looked twice. No one recognized him. He wasn't on the attendance list. His locker was empty. His ID didn't scan. In the office, the staff said he wasn't enrolled. Had never been. He walked to room 108. The door was locked. Between 108 and 110, nothing but wall. No knob, no seam, just paint. And when he looked closely, he saw something faint beneath the surface. Carved into the plaster, only visible when the light caught it just right. Do not follow your name. Marcus Lowell transferred to Fairview Middle in late March, when most students were already checked out, halfway between spring break and summer dreams. He wasn't expecting to make friends or memories, just finish the year quietly and move on. The school was older than his last one. Brown brick, faded linoleum floors, walls lined with motivational posters curling at the edges. Hall B was the longest hallway on the west side. Straight, narrow, and dimly lit, with science rooms on one side and windows facing the courtyard on the other. His first time walking through it, nothing felt strange. Just another hallway. But by the second week, something started to bother him. He would leave room 210 and turn right toward his next class in 204. A simple 2-minute walk. But twice that week, after turning right and walking a few steps, he found himself back outside room 210. At first, he assumed he'd just been distracted. Maybe doubled back without thinking. It was easy to get lost in your head while walking the same path every day. But then it happened again and again. Still ended up at room 210. He told himself it was just stress. He was new, still adjusting, probably overtired. But when he started drawing marks on the floor with his shoe, little streaks of black rubber, he noticed something impossible. The marks disappeared between passes. He would stop, make the mark, walk 20 feet, turn a corner, and when he came back, the mark was gone. He tried recording the walk with his phone. The footage showed nothing unusual. He turned right, walked 30 seconds, passed 2 classrooms, and arrived at room 204. But when he watched it again, the footage looped. Subtly, one of the lockers had the same dent. The same flicker in the ceiling light, repeated at the same exact second. A shadow passed the window on the same beat. It wasn't him looping. The hallway was replaying. Marcus started asking questions. Students shrugged. No one seemed to care. A few admitted the hallway was creepy, especially during the last class of the day. When the light shifted orange through the courtyard glass, one girl, Brenna, told him she avoided Hall B entirely. "Bad vibes," she said. "Feels like walking in a dream you don't remember starting." He spoke to the janitor, Mr. Delvin, who just laughed and said, "Hall B's been weird since before I started here." You learn not to ask. One afternoon, Marcus stayed after school and waited by room 210. He wanted to test something at exactly 4:44 p.m. When the last bell had long since rung and the halls were empty, he walked down Hall B at a steady pace. He passed room 208, then 206, then room 210 again. No turns, no corners. Just the same hallway, same sequence, in the same order. This time, though, he noticed something new. There was a window that should have shown the courtyard. Instead, it showed a reflection of himself. Not mirrored, not reversed, just him, standing still in the window, not walking, watching. He waved. The reflection didn't move. Hen, it blinked. He ran. The school felt wrong as he bolted through the doors and into the fading daylight. The world outside was cold and bright, too sharp after the soft, dreamlike quality of Hall B. He stayed home the next day. When he returned, everything was back to normal until his third period class. He walked into room 204 and froze. The students inside turned to stare at him, not glare, just stare, silent, eyes wide. His teacher, Mr. Powell, looked confused. "Marcus, you're already here." And he was, sitting at his desk, writing. Then the figure looked up, and it had his face. But older, tired, pale. The room flickered. He blinked and stood in an empty hallway again. The door behind him was closed. No voices, no light under the frame. He turned and ran toward the stairs. But the stairs never came. Just lockers, more lockers, and eventually, room 210 again. He stopped, panting, opened the door. Empty classroom, chairs stacked, lights off. On the desk was a folder labeled Lowell M. Inside were pages of loop diagrams, circles drawn in red, timelines with broken segments, notes in handwriting not his own, repeating one phrase: "Anchor yourself, count your steps, do not trust mirrors." The intercom buzzed. Not overhead, from inside the room. A crackling voice, distorted, barely human. "Please return to your previous position. Loop integrity is failing." He backed away. The floor felt uneven, like soft ground under his shoes. The walls pulsed slightly, expanding and contracting in time with his heartbeat. He closed the folder and stepped out of the room. Everything had gone silent. Even his footsteps made no sound. He turned and began to run. He counted each door he passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then room 210 again. But something was different. The door was already open. Inside, the classroom lights were on. Students sat at desks, unmoving, frozen in posture, heads down, pencils up, all staring blankly at worksheets that were completely blank. At the front stood a tall man in a gray suit, not a teacher, not someone he recognized. The man turned slowly to face him. He had no eyes, just smooth skin stretched across his sockets. He raised a hand and pointed at Marcus. Then the bell rang. Marcus screamed. The hallway snapped back. He stood outside a room 204, backpack on late bell ringing overhead. His phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. UV exited loop 12. Remain in hall A until instructed. He looked up and saw Mr. Powell in the doorway. Everything all right? The teacher asked. Marcus nodded slowly. Yes, sir. I just got turned around. Mr. Powell smiled. It happens. Just don't linger in hall B. Trust me. Marcus sat at his desk, shaking. He never used hall B again. But sometimes, out of the corner of his eye. In the reflection of the glass trophy case near the front office, he saw himself still walking down a long hallway with no end, counting doors, waiting for the next bell. No one talked about Detention Room 0, not because it didn't exist, but because its existence was too possible. There were always whispers, stories that started with my cousin knew someone, or this senior last year disappeared after. No teacher confirmed it. No student admitted being sent there. But once or twice a semester, someone would vanish from the roll sheet. No fanfare, just gong. Their name crossed out from the attendance. Their locker emptied. A hollow silence where their desk used to be. Simon Tran didn't believe in ghost stories. He believed in hidden systems. He believed in files, in forgotten keys, in the places adults designed to make things disappear. When Alyssa Juno was expelled for unauthorized use of school equipment, no one thought much of it. She had been acting strange for weeks, sketching bizarre machines in her notebook, talking about exits beneath the auditorium. Then she was gone. Her locker was cleared before morning. Simon knew something was off. She hadn't been suspended. She had been removed. He dug through the school archive servers that weekend, found a hidden folder inside the staff detention system, labeled simply Room 0. Access denied. No location. No map reference. Only names. Dozens. Over decades. No reasons listed. Just last seen dates. And red flags next to most of them. Simon noticed something else. Some of the names had check marks next to them. Others had blank spaces. Alyssa's space was blank. That meant she hadn't been processed or finished. Whatever that meant. The next day, Simon faked detention. He was caught drawing in the back of class, intentionally bad, and told off loudly. When asked to report to room 18, the normal detention room, he refused. "I'm waiting for room 0, he said. The teacher stared at him like he'd just admitted to seeing ghosts. She didn't argue. She called someone on the phone, whispered something, nodded, and then 2 minutes later, a woman from the office arrived. Simon had never seen her before. She wore no ID, carried no clipboard, only a black key. She said, "You'll follow me." He did, down the stairs, past the basement gym, through a fire door that opened without resistance. At the end of the hallway, a door with no sign. She unlocked it, then stepped aside. "Detention," she said. "Time is marked upon entry." He walked in. The door shut. No lock sounded. No light changed. Just silence. The room was bigger than expected. A wide space with desks, but all facing inward. In the center was a podium, empty. Around the perimeter, file cabinets, tall, unlabeled. The lights were dim and golden, not electric, not warm, just tired. Simon sat. No one else entered. Minutes passed, then an hour. He stood and approached one of the cabinets. No resistance. Inside were files, each thick, stamped with a student's name and date of entry. He pulled one at random. Morgan Dell's minus 1094. Inside were pages and pages of drawings, dreams, personal fears, notes about behavior that went far beyond school records. He opened another and another. Each one described exactly what that student feared most. One was afraid of deep water. Their file contained photographs, not of oceans, but of bathtubs, filled to the brim, taken from above. Another feared mirrors. Their file had pages of reflections, not faces, just eyes. Then Simon saw it, a file with his name. Simon Tran, incomplete, hands trembling. He opened it. The first page was blank. The second contained a photo, his bedroom, but taken from the corner, a view he'd never seen. The next, his locker, open, inside, nothing. Then came the final page. It read, "He does not yet understand what he fears." The lights dimmed. A bell rang, not the school bell. something older. Simon turned. The podium in the center was no longer empty. A figure stood behind it. Not a teacher, not a person. Wrapped in something like cloth or skin, layered in gray. No face, just a shape. Watching, it raised its hand and pointed. Simon couldn't move. The file in his hands vanished. All the cabinets closed at once, slamming in unison. The lights flickered, then darkness. When Simon opened his eyes again, he was back in his bedroom. Morning light poured in. His phone buzzed. A school notification. Simon Tran has withdrawn from enrollment. He ran to school. No one remembered him. His ID didn't scan. Alyssa's name wasn't in the system. Neither was his. Room 0 no longer existed on the map. He walked to where the door had been. Nothing. Just a blank wall. But faintly carved into the concrete, nearly invisible, was a line of text. A light above flickered once, and the air whispered as if from far down a corridor no one else could see. Next,